Alright, Shalom. Before I begin, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Ruach Kodash. Double honors to my teachers, the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone, the men whom I've learned this truth from, and also Shalom and salutations to the elect that's out there preaching this word in truth and sincerity. I'm the brother Shaquat from Great Millstone, Montreal, back with another in-transit lesson. And this in-transit lesson that I'm going to be getting into, is just going to be inspired by something that was on my spirit. And pretty much what was on my spirit was, this truth, right? It's the path of life, and to be technical or to specify what I mean by this truth is this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, the doctrine that, the apostles and elders and bishops of Great Millstone possess, because that's the 100% truth. That's where the spirit of the Lord Yahweh Shai is, and being exposed or being or coming across it and actually taking hold of it, you got hold of life, and that's who Yahweh Shai is. Yahweh Shai is life, right? That's what he said. He said, I am the truth, the way, and the life. No man can come unto the Father but through Yahweh Shai. So Yahweh Shai is life. And life means to live, man. And that begins with this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, right? Because soon, when the kingdom is here, the men of the Lord, the elect, and all Israelites are going to be immortal. And that's pretty much the fight on the earth, right? To immortality, to live long, to live as long as possible, right? Survival pretty much, but only the men of the Lord are going to survive. The elect, the 144,000 is going to survive in the second death, man, and the great multitude, right? Right, so I said all that to say this truth is the path of life, man. Any other path on this earth doesn't lead to anything. It leads to death. It leads to destruction, man, no matter what path that is, right? For example, let's deal with the corporate world, right? Let's say you want to take that route. You want to become corporate. There's still things that you have to do that are wicked in that field. You have to sin. There's things that you have to do that are not well-pleasing to the Heavenly Father. Most likely breaking the law, statutes, and commandments, right? And that's death right there. You can get judged for that, right? Even trickles down to somebody that's gangbanging, man. That path, because there's a lot of paths and roads and routes on the earth, man, but all of them don't lead anywhere, man. They have an end, right? And that's why I said that this truth is the path of life, because this truth is pretty much forever, man. This wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the scriptures and of who the Heavenly Father is, this is forever, because it's going to translate to the next world, right? That's why the scriptures speak about your riches. Store up your riches in heaven, man. And what's a part of that? The riches is pretty much laboring for the truth, laboring for the ministry of Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai, which is pushing forth this truth, right? Of who the Heavenly Father is, what he looks like, who his people are, what his names are, and prophesying, and so on and so forth, man. All right, and that's the path of life, and there's also in the truth you have the law, statutes, and commandments. In the law, statutes, and commandments, when you take a look at them, they're how you're supposed to deal on the earth. That's what they are. They're pretty much guidelines to how you're supposed to conduct yourself on the earth, and different things that you're supposed to do the right way. Right? You find that in the laws, statutes, and commandments. And each and every law leads to life. It avoids death. It avoids you dying. Right? For example, adultery. Right? Adultery will be you sleeping with another man's wife. The scriptures say thou shalt not commit adultery. So that's avoiding death, because if you sleep with another man's wife and he finds out, man, he's gonna, that's gonna upset him. That man, that's gonna arouse him, and he's gonna want to put you to death, right? And it's simple to avoid that. Just don't sleep with another man's wife, because you know how that would feel, man. You wouldn't feel right if that was you. So don't do it. Treat your fellow Israelite brother as yourself. So that's an example right there. You avoid conflict. And there's countless other examples out there, man. That you can find just like that in the law, statutes, and commandments, man. Right? But all that is for you to pretty much live, man. For you to stay alive, for the most part. Right? All the law, statutes, and commandments are for you to stay alive. That's why they're there. They're a guideline, a guide, right? That's why what's that precept? It says, thy precepts are a lamp unto my feet. So you're being guided through the precepts of Yahweh Bashim Ashai. The path of life. On the path of life, you're being guided, man. You're being kept. That's why the scriptures speak about wisdom being a defense. Because it guards you from evil. It keeps you from death, man. Oh, that's why it says Proverbs 5. It speaks about the strange woman, the lips of a strange woman, and her feet, go down into hell and are death. Right? A strange woman is symbolic to a false doctrine. If you take heed to a false doctrine, that's going to be your destruction. Why? Because it's not the right way. It's not the right way that the Heavenly Father has set up. So yeah, that's pretty much the lesson. This truth is the path of life, man. And any other path or road leads to nothing. Even though it might be a road for a while, it ends bad, no matter what, on this earth, man. But the truth is the only path that, no matter how rigorous it may get, it's the only path that leads to life. Because that's also another thing. It's not just an easy path that you embark on. It's not, there's gonna be things along the way that may seem that are difficult and hard, or tough, rigorous, but still, that's for your welfare, man. It's for your well-being. Hey, man. So with that, I hope this lesson was edifying and what I was trying to express made sense. I want to say, call hello, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Kodash. Once again, the Malanas to my teachers, the apostles, bishops, and elders, a great millstone. Until next time. Shalom.